not in consensus. I know it was not in consensus on that day. So procedurally, I can read this aloud now. May request a temporary waiver from the department from the criminal background check requirements. The department may grant a waiver when this requirement presents a hardship to the child care provider for reasons that include but are not limited to an inability to meet other licensing requirements because of medical reasons or because of a delay in processing the criminal background check. So without speaking on the context of that line or those lines, procedurally, how do we move forward if this was placed in this amendment and it wasn't under consensus?
That was what we voted on the first day we voted on this.
I'm sorry, Representative. No,
it wasn't in the language review, but even I remember Representative Deno at the time brought up. I thought there was something about giving the department waiver authority.
it was discussed, certainly, but it was not part of what was voted on.
If I may, what I had suggested was that Senator Brakey worked with the staff to come up with something that we could at least review, but I don't think we agreed on any language or even a specific concept.
Well,
So
that was my
procedurally,
so
what
that
would
was
we do
my
at this point?
Do we need to revote this?
We didn't vote on it, is my point.
Yes,
Okay.
you would have to revote it.
Okay.
And the reason I added it here was so that we had language to work on, as I explained. So that,
Representative Malaby.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I actually like this language. I can remember trying to address the potential staffing shortfalls that may arise for the family caregivers and how difficult sometimes that is, and also the issue with some of their volunteers. So I am comfortable with the language as long as that waiver is time limited. I can see that time and individual limited. I would not have any problem with it.
Representative Parker.
I cannot support this in any way, in the fact that it speaks to the hardship of the caregiver when we all know full well the hardship of a child and abuse taking place in less than minutes in some cases. So basically with this legislation is what we're saying is we leave it to the child care's perception, gut check, feeling that someone is safe. And so if that's what we're saying with this waiver, then I question why we have this legislation in front of us anywhere. If we're creating loopholes where there are situations because of someone's feeling or idea or hardship that they can, not have this check. I really think the focus is taken off of the hardship of the children in daycare experiencing abuse and put on the providers, and I just cannot sign on to this.
I'll just say, part of me wishes that, and I'm sure I could go over to the other building and pull the audio for the meeting where we did this, because I remember specifically we went back and forth on this for a good hour, and this was specifically talked about, whether it inadvertently did not end up in the final motion or was not understood to be in the final motion, but this was part of the agreement as I understand it. And if we can no longer agree to this,